As the world watches wars being fought in both Europe and the Middle East, this morning a new push by the Department of Defense to upgrade its nuclear weapons. Military leaders recently announcing they will pursue production of the B-6113 nuclear gravity bomb, a weapon 24 times more powerful than the bomb dropped on Hiroshima, Japan during World War II. One defense leader writing in a statement that the need for the new nuclear weapon, quote, is reflective of a changing security environment and growing threats from potential adversaries.
This is as serious a topic as we will hear about this year.
Earlier this month on Capitol Hill, the Senate Armed Services Committee focused on the country's nuclear strategy. Leaders from both sides noted ongoing threats from enemies like Russia, which recently de-ratified a nuclear test ban treaty, as well as North Korea, which continues to conduct numerous weapons tests.
To prevent war and keep the peace, it is incumbent on legislators to commit today to a program of sustained innovation and investment. This is the only way we can reclaim lost ground.
This mission has become more urgent through Russia's assault on Ukraine and because of China's rapid strategic expansion.
Here in the U.S., just 2 weeks ago, the National Nuclear Security Administration announced a team conducted an underground chemical explosion at a test site in Nevada, aimed at improving America's ability to detect nuclear explosions around the world. Now, with a call to upgrade the U.S.'s own weapons, some lawmakers want to see the country be prepared.
It is time to begin making the national defense investments required to deter the conflicts looming ahead.
Tonight, retaliation. U.S. warplanes striking a weapons facility in Syria after Iranian-backed forces targeted American troops in Iraq and Syria with a barrage of drone and rocket attacks over the weekend, making at least 40 such attacks on Americans since mid-October. Most of those intercepted and no serious injuries reported. This is the second time the U.S. has launched these retaliatory airstrikes in response to attacks on American troops by Iran-backed militants. On October 26th, launching missiles into 2 weapons storage facilities in Syria. Just hours before these latest retaliatory attacks, one of the most serious provocations by Iranian-backed militants since the Israel-Hamas conflict began. A U.S. defense official confirming that Houthi forces in Yemen shot down a U.S. Reaper drone over waters off Yemen's coast. The MQ-9 Reaper is one of the most sophisticated and expensive armed drones in the U.S. arsenal. And while the U.S. is trying to make sure the war in Israel does not spread, Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin saying in a statement tonight the United States is fully prepared to take further necessary measures to protect our people and our facilities.
And now we're hearing that, well, Hamas is not destroyed. And when will this happen where they feel like they are close to wrapping up some sort of an operation to get Hamas? So U.S. officials this weekend, according to the New York Times, saying that despite massive bombing and this ground invasion of Gaza, the Pentagon believes that Israel has not come close, not even close, to taking out Hamas's leadership.
Well, it's interesting. Talk about sources. Seymour Hersh, who I consider to be a very good friend, just published a piece in his Substack that makes it sound like Hamas is lost, that their leadership has been destroyed, that their food supply is turning rancid. They're going to all suffocate because of a lack of oxygen. That's a source speaking to Seymour Hersh. It's 100% wrong. If people don't understand this, by deconstructing what happened on October 7th, Hamas is a much better organization, a much stronger organization, a much more capable organization, a much more professional organization than anybody had given them credit for. What they did on October 7th was one of the most skillfully executed military operations in modern history, literally a David attacking a Goliath. They have planned for the Israelis. The Israelis have walked into a Hamas trap. And the Hamas trap is very complex. It's not just about the military situation on the ground. It's about the geopolitical situation globally. Hamas has won this war already. Why?
Yeah, when you see tens of thousands of protests in streets.
Hundreds of thousands, millions around the world.
tensions over the war between Israel and Hamas at a fever pitch in the U.S. A brawl breaking out between pro-Israel and pro-Palestinian demonstrators outside the Museum of Tolerance in Los Angeles after a screening of a video released by the Israeli military.
Today, Jewish students at UMass Amherst are on edge after a fellow student is arrested for assaulting a Jew on campus. The school confirming the incident, saying, quote, an individual approached participants and made aggressive and rude gestures. Later, this person returned, assaulted a student who was holding an Israeli flag and proceeded to steal and spit on the flag.
This comes as thousands of pro-Palestinian protesters raged in Washington, D.C. before descending on the White House, smearing the gates with red paint. They estimated at one point the crowd in Washington was 100,000 strong.
Hamas has flipped the script. No one's talking about October 7th. That's the strategic mistake that Israel made. Had they, on October 8th, secured the border and then asked the question, how did this happen? Why did this happen? And we want the world to rally with us as we seek to find a solution to this. There would be millions of people in the streets today demonstrating in support of Israel and against Hamas. But Israel did what everybody knew they were to do because it is their doctrine to do it, to bomb. They have not destroyed Hamas. Hamas is planned for a 90-day campaign. They have sufficient resources underground for 90 days of fighting. We are 30 days into this campaign, and Israel's already losing. Israel may be making progress above ground, but as every Israeli commander will tell you, we control nothing because you can't control above ground when below ground is Hamas, just like standing on an anthill. All you do is guarantee that the ants will come out and sting you and bite you. That's what Hamas is doing. It's a death by 1,000 cuts for the Israelis. Every day they lose more troops, more vehicles. They secure nothing, and they haven't even begun to move into the actual heavy urban areas. The Israeli army has lost. The Israeli politicians has lost. Benjamin Netanyahu is lost. He has no one has confidence. As we speak, there's demonstrators in front of his residence calling for his resignation. Normally, under wartime conditions, the nation rallies around their leader. Israel is not rallying around Bibi Netanyahu. Israel is a nation that is in absolute chaos because of the incompetence of Bibi Netanyahu. They aren't winning anything. They're losing everything. This is a huge victory for Hamas.
Wars can shift alliances. They can put enemies in the same room or pit friends against each other. Just look at West Asia. Two sown regional rivals are looking to cooperate. We're talking about Iran and Saudi Arabia. Reports say Iranian President Ibrahim Raisi will travel to Riyadh. It will be his first trip to Saudi Arabia. Also the first by an Iranian president in almost a decade. In Riyadh, Raisi will attend the OIC summit. The OIC is the Organization of Islamic Cooperation. It's a group of 57 Muslim countries. They're holding an emergency summit on Sunday, and Raisi plans to attend. Now, why is this important? Like I mentioned, Iran and Saudi Arabia are rivals. Saudi Arabia is a Sunni kingdom. Iran is a Shiite republic. They represent two major sects of Islam, Shia and Sunni. In 2016, they broke off diplomatic ties. The Saudi embassy in Tehran was attacked, so Riyadh said no more relations. But earlier this year, that changed. China brokered a deal between Saudi Arabia and Iran. Both sides agreed to normalize relations. So this visit is the culmination of that effort. On the 12th of October, both leaders had a conversation, the Iranian and the Saudi leaders. It was the first one between them, and they agreed that the attacks on Palestinians must end. They also mentioned the Americans. Both MBS and Raisi said the US green signal for Israel was dangerous. West Asia seems to have lost trust in the US, and you can't blame them. It tells you that their clout has diminished. And West Asian countries realize this. They cannot depend on the US to guarantee their security or to contain wars and conflicts. They have to do that themselves.